welcome to the stream. My name is Mike D'Angelo, aka that Tellest guy. I am joined here on my stream today by my two co-hosts, my wife Rihanna.
Hello.
And our doggie Luna. Say hello with your nose in the frame just a little bit. She has definitely wanted to be on camera since we came up here today, so this is working out for her. We are going to be talking about spooky tales from the world of Tellest today. Since 2017, I believe it was, we've got, I believe it's 10 tales. Let me bring this up. Yep, 2017 was the first Halloween story that we wrote for the Tellest universe. We started with a joke character that we introduced the year before. Actually, it might have even been earlier that year, and Bixby Aladocious, and he will be where we start. But let's get a little bit of regular chatting in before we go directly into the topics. We had a little bit of a not being present last week because I am not yet an affiliate, and we were on vacation. So there was no new content last week, and I apologize for that. I thought that I would be able to do rerun content, and I had rerun content ready for us because we did the bonus episode conventions a while back, and we were just going to rerun that again. Didn't have that opportunity because I didn't know that non-affiliates couldn't do that kind of stuff. So yeah, last week we went on vacation. We went down to our honeymoon spot in Orlando, Florida, where Rihanna perfectly timed a donk to the head.
Bloody good time for the spooky season.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to explain what happened?
No. But I will. We were in Volcano Bay, fantastic water park. I hope we still look upon it fondly with good memories. We were in the lazy river, and I just wanted to kind of reposition myself on like the little floaty tube and, you know, get like a better grip on the handles. And when I jumped up on it, I toppled over. The tube flipped me upside down like a duck trying to feed underwater, and my nose was smashed into the bottom of the concrete on the floor of the lazy river. And I just happened to like pass a jet perfectly that propelled the tube forward whilst I was still upside down, so I meat crayoned on the floor. And yeah, super bloody, and my nose is a little owie.
I looked away for 2 seconds while we were in the lazy river together, and
was very confused.
In those 2 seconds, you went from being quiet and relaxed to being, Michael, I need you to stop.
I know. That's all I said.
I thought I was in trouble. I thought that I was the one who was about to be injured.
No. I was in literal shock. It was him and a lifeguard was like, "Are you okay?" And then I just happened to look down and I just saw my hands covered in blood. Mm-hmm. It was great.
It was not a tiny bit of blood.
It was bad.
So this is actually the reason that Rihanna's not on camera right now.
I feel stupid because I have a stupid Band-Aid all over my nose, and it's not good.
That's why Luna has volunteered to be on camera as much as she will be today, to make up for me being the only one on camera.
The supplemental ginger.
Yeah. The nice thing is, I mean, even despite, having that,
we still had a good time.
We had a very good time. Even later that day, we went to the Pirates Dinner Theater.
Right. It wasn't even that I was like freaking out when it happened. I freaked out when I looked at it because I was like, I'm a hideous monster.
Right.
Because it looked like a hole in my face.
And I refused to let you look at yourself until we were out of the park because I knew it was going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
I was smart about a lot of things, like telling you not to do what you did in the first place.
Yeah, but you were not smart about saying he did a I told you so like 6 times. You don't say I told you so, even if you knew.
3 at most.
It was 6. It was so many.
This is gonna just be one of those stories where like the amount of times I told you keeps growing.
It was 45 times. You wouldn't stop.
To and from school. So, yeah, we had a very good rest of the time and everything. You almost injured yourself one other time.
Yeah, found out haunted houses are not for me. That was terrifying.
That was a good time, though.
No, it was.
It was.
So,
and it helps us transition into...
Yeah, the spooky stuff.
So we've gone to Universal plenty of times. In fact, when we went for our honeymoon, we were down there, but we never did Halloween Horror Nights or anything like that. We're very into like spooky stories and things like that. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be writing them and things like that. But as far as like the haunted houses at like Universal or I guess wherever, the jump scares don't do it for me.
They do it for me.
They scare you,
they
certainly.
They send me into walls.
I get like a sense of anxiety, but not like a scared. It's like, these people are rushing at me and making me feel uncomfortable. Like, not my heart is curdling or anything like that.
For me, it was more so that like it was claustrophobic. Like It was very like a tight space that you were being kind of herded through like cattle.
Very much like cattle.
It was the lights flashing and the smog was like just a bit too much, and then the music was like really loud. Like it was less like, oh my god, I'm gonna die, and more like, this is too much for me to possibly handle in this very moment. So
I like the concept. Like the concept was
they should have let
nice.
it breathe though. Like it was like 2 minutes or less.
I will say this:
2 hours in line.
Right. We were in the very first one that we went to. The first house was Stranger Things themed, and to their credit, they did a really good job making the cast members look like members of the show, or like cast members of the show and everything. They really did a good job there. They made the house, that Vecna, his home base, they made that look very much like it looks in the show. Like the set dressing is really nice, but you don't get a lot of time to appreciate it because everybody is really just like rushing through everything. And so much of it is like separated into like separate chambers and everything. So we did that. We did Dueling Dragons. We were going to do the Last of Us house, but by that point it was already like 9:00.
Yeah.
It was a 90-minute wait to get in. And again, like you're doing 90 minutes for all of like 2.5 minutes of house.
Right.
And we'd already been exhausted from getting beat in the face. So
yeah. The lazy river was all the horror that I needed.
Right. So, but we will use the Vampirates and the Halloween Horror Nights as our kind of transition. Our segue into tonight's topic, which is the spooky stories of Tellest. Now, our spooky stories are not very jump scary. We try to be a little bit more atmospheric, a little bit more eerie. We want it to be like a mood set instead of hey, let's throw everything in your face. And in some cases, they're not even really spooky. They're just Halloween themed.
Yeah. I mean, fantasy and horror kind of like go hand in hand in a lot of ways. Like it's just a device to tell your story. Just like, ookier themes.
Right. So, and speaking of that was where our first Halloween story, it probably wasn't even meant to be a Halloween story, except that we had a cool character that we introduced earlier that year who had an ability that plays into some weird, ooky, Halloween friendly, so to speak, concepts with Bixby Alidocious. Let me see if I can. Let me switch this over to regular recording. You'll just get my little face in the corner.
And for anyone who doesn't know the Bixby Alidocious origin,
right? So we'll show a picture of Bixby real quick, and it should serve the purpose of explaining a little bit about what Bixby is. So Bixby's power, he's a character that's been around for like close to 7 years at this point. But he didn't really get his chance to shine in a feature-length novel until last year with the April Fools. Where people discover that his power is that he can die a lot. So Bixby's ability is that whenever he dies, he can reconstitute his soul and basically come back to the world of the living. But his previous bodies don't go away. They remain there. So his very first foray into the world was the April Fool's story that we told. And then we quickly went and did like an actual story for him. Yeah,
well, the April Fool's joke was simply the name because it was
it was like a 1 page, like a 1 sheet, and then it got to the bottom where it was
a supercalifragilistic Bixby-Alidocious instead of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Oh my god, that's hard to say.
So we did Bixby Aladocious and the Goddess of Death or something like that, which was his first story, and that kind of explained his powers a little bit more, because we really didn't, from the first story, we didn't really quite understand what we were doing with him. And you can definitely see, like, there's certain references to some popular characters in pop culture and everything. I like to think of him as, without breaking the fourth wall, kind of like our Deadpool, because he's very quirky. Like, you don't die 100 times and not have some kind of kookiness to you.
If Deadpool and Kenny from South Park
Yes.
had a baby.
Yes, very much so. So he's got, like, the black and red, and we added some gold in there to give him a little bit of his own personality. So in that first story for him, you do learn that he dies and can come back and everything, and you learn a little bit about what's behind, his thought process and everything, and he immediately dies again, I think, in that first story. But Bixby Aladocious and the Ancestor Festival is, let's see, we got another Bixby art piece that Leo did for us. I just have to grab it. We call this one Weekend at Bixby's. So this was the quote-unquote cover art for Bixby Aladocious and the Ancestor Festival. And the idea for this was Bixby needed to help a town called Dustside recover Halloween decorations. They were just skeletons that were fashioned for this town. They celebrated their dead, and he thought, I'll help this town. I'll go and, be the hero that they need, and then this wizard who I'm trying to help, since I'm helping him, will teach me all this magic. At this point, Bixby really didn't have that kind of magic that he needed. He was still kind of learning things. What do you...
I love him. I just love that picture. It's so funny.
So
he's never alone. He can just snuggle his
himself,
dead body. Like
he's always the warmer body of the two. He's
always the warmer body.
So I don't know necessarily that that we'll do this a lot, but we will fan cast for the sake of, we know who we fan casted for this. We absolutely love the idea of Dylan O'Brien being Bixby Aladocious, because
he's got the quirkiness.
He's got that quirkiness that, like, you could really pull together.
Kind of dry, sarcastic humor, but still very lively.
Right, exactly. So Bixby has become one of our favorite characters, which is why we brought him into the April's Fools. We'll certainly see him again, even outside of the feature-length novels, because we have plans for him in short stories again as well. So yeah, I'm very excited and very happy that was our first Halloween story, because it really opened the door in a lot of different ways for what came afterwards. Right. So that is our very first of 10 that we'll talk about. Now, 2018, we went from one story to two stories. So I wrote one story, which we'll talk about in a second, but we also had a story which you can find on the Tellest website called Ghost Hunter. It's broken into 3 parts. We don't have any art for it. We have so many stories, it's impossible for us to get art for all of them. But if you go to the Tellest website, you can find all 3 of these. These are 3 stories, 3 parts of a story that Aaron Canton wrote for us. Ghost Hunter is kind of like, when I had been discussing with Aaron what I wanted to do with this story, I wanted to kind of take Pokemon and add like a ghosty kind of spin to it. I wanted it to be that, what are you whining about, Zelda? 4th co-host. So I wanted it to be kind of like Pokemon. It has a Pokemon-esque kind of feel to it, because the main character has powers in that she collects ghosts and then can use their abilities as her own. And then it also has kind of like, at that point in time, I hadn't ever played any of the, well, I still haven't, but I wasn't even aware of like the Yokai Watch games, which I think are done by Level 5, the ones who do Professor Layton and Fantasy Life and stuff like that. But it was actually more kind of a combination of Pokemon and some of like the Game Boy Advance and DS Castlevania games that kind of mixed in my head, because you got those games where you were taking the souls of the defeated enemies and things like that. And Aaron put that together in a really fun way, because he had a lot of experience in that part of the world that we drew that mythology from. He'd spent time in Japan, so he had that history and that folklore to dig into. And I don't think that I would have been able to pull it off the same way that he did. He had, certainly I have a respect for that culture and everything like that, but he had lived it in a way that I hadn't.
Yeah. It's different when you immerse yourself in
right,
like
right.
the well, not the mythology, the not culture. What's the I can't think of words, but it's the thought processes of a culture.
Right.
I forget what that word is, but I sound so smart.
You are the smartest person I know in this room other than myself.
The other ones are dogs.
So just to give a little bit of premise of what this story was about, Yasuoka Takako, she has the ability to overpower and defeat ghosts, and she can use their powers to unleash them in future battles with other ghosts. But Ghost Hunter turns her ability on its head a little bit and has her thinking outside of the box from the way that she would normally consider things. And it ended up leading into other things in her future story, which we'll talk about as we near the 2022 set of stories. The other story that we told in 2018 was mine, which was Searchlight, which we may be taking from a short story and developing a little bit more and making it a full release. We've been talking about it for a little while. It's longer than Mage War, it's longer than Son of the Storm. I think it just needs a little bit of TLC, and then we might re-release it. It's already got beautiful cover art. Let me show you what Paul Davies was able to do for us. This was the origination of the Warp Elves art. I don't know if I'm going to easily be able to show the entire thing, but we'll go to the image in a new tab. So we've got our Warp Elves, which well, I'll talk about the story a little bit first. So Searchlight is what you do with Icarus Calatuil when you don't know what's happened to him post the fall. We knew that he survived. We knew that he, at the beginning, the kind of bookends of the fall were him talking to Kelvin Dracos, his brother Helios. So you knew that he was alive present day, even though the fall was largely situated in the past. And Searchlight gave him an opportunity to, just like Bixby, kind of be present in more than one place in the timeline. Bixby can live forever, essentially, and Icarus being one of the oldest elves in the Tellest universe, gets to play around in the tapestry a little bit. And the fun thing about the enemies that we had in Searchlight was they played back into the fall in some interesting ways. We knew that magic was banished from the world because of the ritual that Rosarius enacted, and these poor, unwitting warp elves ended up in a completely other realm, couldn't make their way back, so they ended up becoming primal and just insane over time.
At least they're shredded.
They are shredded. Their diet somewhat like how we experienced the flamingos.
Yeah.
The diet contributes to the way that they look. So, and Searchlight was cool because it was the first story I think that we told where we had a Minotaur main character. It was, I think, probably the first story where we were saying, like, hey, let's look at a community where people are not all one race or two or three races. It was an amalgamation of a lot of different people who felt like they didn't belong, but because of that sense of not belonging, they belong to each other. So it's we definitely find that I think Searchlight is going to be like one of our hub towns that we'll play in again in the future, and it's just, there's so many stories that we can tell and so many engines that are developing plots for us.
It's a great hub to show like all the different races and how they exist and interact together, because other stories, like, you might get one or two characters but not like all characters of a bunch of different races actually having conversations with each other.
And not only characters of different races, but predominantly ones that typically wouldn't spend time with each other, because we don't really like push it the way that like we do, like we see in like Warcraft or anything, where you have the good races and the bad races, the Horde and Alliance or anything like that. But we do separate them to some extent, and geographically and like as far as like the way that we kind of conceptualize things and Quantum Quest, like, here's the good races, here's the bad races. But in the case of Searchlight, it was everybody felt a sense of belonging. You know, it was, you might have had a little bit of tension here and there because historically this person has been, or this person's race has been at odds with this person's race, but it definitely gave us the opportunity to explore things in a different way. So I was happy with that. And yeah, I mean, you can dive into Searchlight right now. The whole story is up on the Tellest website. And if we do end up bringing it to life in a bigger fashion, then we'll have an awesome book to show for it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
with very cool cover art.
yes, indeed. And Paul is a master at, like, extending things in case we need, like, a cool back cover or anything like that. So we definitely are in good hands. So that was 2018. Let's talk about 2019. So 2019, we had The Forest of Silence. Do you remember what that one is? No. The Forest of Silence was when we first introduced the Silent Sprites.
Oh, yeah.
So the Silent Sprites were, this was the only cover art, I believe, that Dennis Van Kessel did for us. He did a couple of our character art pieces and everything like that, but this was the first, like, big piece that he did for us before he kind of found us, Warren Suen Lee, who has been an awesome contributor to the Tellest universe as far as art goes. But the idea that we had for The Forest of Silence was we were going to introduce these critters that typically you wouldn't think of as dangerous beings. Like when you think sprites and pixies and everything like that, you're like, all right, like, they're buzzing around, they're flies, they're not anything, you know, maybe they have magic or something like that. But in our case, the Silent Sprites, they move quietly and carry a big needle. So the whole concept of Silent Sprites were they would sew your mouth shut if you were making noise in their forest. And we've since, I don't think that they show up in the first expansion of Quantum Quest, but they are in the second expansion. Spoilers. Just because we like having, like, the one, you know, like, low level creature chamber that you can get, that any class can get or anything like that. It's just it's a cool idea.
So I knew it was creepy, but, like, after we've, like, watched Saw and stuff, like, I have a different visual in my head now.
It was supposed to be a very, like, creepy, scary kind of feel and everything like that. And the other thing that was interesting about The Forest of Silence was I wanted to explore things from a character perspective that I really couldn't provide myself, because the main character that you follow, she's deaf. She's deaf and mute. She doesn't have the ability to cause any grief for these sprites. So she forms a unique relationship with them while these terrible people are trying to apprehend her. And just really cool off the wall stuff happened with this. And we haven't seen her or the Silent Sprites since, but I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I think that that's the kind of thing that would serve a nice crossover with Reese and Virgil.
Ooh, yeah, I like that.
There's a lot of stuff that, like, I feel like can be enhanced or tweaked by a little bit of void magic. So
their stories are also kind of philosophically poised to have, like, situational interactions.
Right. Yeah, there's always a little bit of, why am I here doing this?
Right.
Quantum Quest is a little bit more, you know, fantasy, like pulp fantasy, where it's not really giving you a lot of philosophy. It's just adventure. But so far, each of the Reese stuff has been, you know, just some chatting, Meatball. We are just chatting about the spooky stories from the Tellest universe tonight. Tomorrow and Wednesday, we will be back doing some map work. Well, I'll be back. You'll be cheering me on from downstairs, I'm sure.
Playing Paleo.
Yeah, it's been a little while. How was it?
I played it for only, like, maybe 15 minutes. I didn't want to get sucked back in.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know.
Well,
I will. It's only a matter of time.
Yep. So yeah, that was the Forest of Silence. Haven't really explored too much in that forest since then, just because it's quiet there. They haven't been able to speak about, you know, what they've been doing. But 2020 was special for you. because 2020 was your first Halloween tale. Do you want to introduce that, or do you want me to talk about it a little bit more? Or
it's been a while since I
wrote it.
Do
you
so
remember what it is?
I do. I remember. It's Cassandra and Edmund on a pirate ship. This is out. So they were also another one that started as kind of a April Fool's
Fool's characters. Yeah, they started in Weather Here or There.
Right, and then that was like a Rickroll joke,
right,
basically. Right. But it expanded, and I really liked the character of Cassandra, who's...
Do you remember what the story was called for people?
Spectral Tides.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. And so Cassandra is she thinks she can predict the weather. She's like pretty adamant about that, and she has a guy who encounters her basically and is interested.
Do you want to be my boyfriend?
Yeah, he controls the weather, so he makes it so that she thinks her predictions are
correct.
Real. So that's the basis of the story. So this one is them setting sail on a ship, which is great to have a weather wizard on because he can literally control kind of like where they're going and what they're doing.
Right. And he's trying to be clandestine about it. He doesn't want to be indentured into servitude with these people who realize if we control the weather, we control the ship's sails and everything.
So I know that it involves them going into a haunted cave in search of treasure, basically, but there's a ghostly presence within that cave.
Right.
And
some very cool stuff. There was a kraken. Very Pirates of the Caribbean kind of themed and everything like that. And whereas we had introduced Cassandra and Edmund in an earlier story, that story introduces Gideon Castor, who
ends up in
who ends up in the third book, and he ends up in the trilogy capper for God bless you. God bless you. Does every sneeze still hurt your nose? Yeah. I'm sorry. Hey, don't step on things, you butthead. You want to come up?
Talking to the dog, not me.
I was talking to both of you. Hello there. Hello. Are you a good doggy? Are you a good doggy? Can you speak? Can you speak? Good girl. You want to speak to us, Aldo?
You want to speak? Can you speak? You want to come up? You want to come up? Oh, not you. You're so big.
So Gideon ends up being in the Adelia trilogy capper, Wild Magic. He ends up being a rather big part. You know, he's I wouldn't say a central character in Spectral Tides, but a bigger character there. He's one of the main characters in Wild Magic, and he showed up from your story, so that's got to be pretty cool.
It is pretty cool, and he interacts with another character that I helped
formulate. Because
Right,
Lucinda is a huge part of the Adelia trilogy as well,
right.
And they have a very interesting and fun relationship. And Edmund and Cassandra are going to show up again. Yes, Edmund and Cassandra are going to show up again in Steel Tip's next book. Well, not Steel Tip anymore. Kelvin's next book. When we do the sequel to, well, it'll be his next book, because we're gonna do Silver Serpent Volume 2, and then we'll move on to the sequel to Heart of the Forest, which is going to be Heart of the Sea. So where else to have some interesting characters show up but
the sea,
right? So which they are very accustomed to at this point.
That spyglass is part of the story.
Right.
That's
so we created the spectral spyglass with our buddy Azot, which is a very central point to the Spectral Tides story. So after Ghosts. After that, we went to 2021. So we went back to Aaron. I didn't have time to do anything myself in 2021. So we did, with him, we gave this isn't the first time that we've done this, but we gave two of our Quantum Quest characters the spotlight in Blood in the Desert. So we had spent a little bit of time in Savion because of Kayonani, and we knew that Lila and Seeger and Retris came from Savion. The backstory that I had developed for parts of Savion, I knew that there were vampiric gnolls in some of the places in Savion. And we had this weird, like, crazy-looking gnoll girl named... what was it? Raya Svir, I think her name was pronounced, and we used the awesome talents of Warren Suen Lee to bring this piece to life. And we also introduced a fun juxtaposition between her and another Quantum Quest character in our Rhinotaur Crusader Nothbox, who his god Saros has been telling him, you have to wipe darkness from the land. So Warren gave us this awesome piece, and I wrote this story. Or I'm sorry, Aaron, with my advisement, wrote this story about these two characters who encountered vampiric gnolls in the desert. And the reason that we came up with that was when I was originally looking so frustrated that we're not talking to you. The reason that we developed this story was because when I was developing the encyclopedia entry information for Savion and knew that gnolls were a big part of it, I had found out that there's Greek and Persian and African mythology about vampiric gnolls. Well, not gnolls, but were hyenas that would drink men's blood and stuff.
So that makes me think in the same vein as like unicorns and dragons. They existed.
They had to.
Something exists like as like the core of these concepts.
Have you ever
exist? So
have you ever seen a chupacabra? I could be a chupacabra. So it was a very fun story. It was a new way to see characters that we had seen before, but we had only known these characters when they were very little, when they were turning into sprites.
Oh, the babies.
The babies. So it was very fun to see them in a new light. Very thankful to Aaron for bringing them to life in prose, and to Warren for bringing them to life in this awesome cover art that we got for them. Now, 2021 was the first time in a while that one of us hadn't written a story. I had expected that 2022 I was going to have the same problem. Let's see. So I actually decided I still wanted two stories. I wanted we were still working with Aaron and still do. I just haven't had the time to develop a story for him to write, and we also started to collaborate with Valena DeAngelis a little bit, who wrote two of our stories, one of them that has not seen the light of day yet because it requires me to write Heart of the Sea first. I had lofty aspirations for myself to write much quicker than I have, and that's knowing that I write slowly. So we have this Halloween 2022 hub that shows their two stories, Ghost Guardian and The Wailing Fae, for Aaron and Valena respectively. I ended up also last minute deciding, I have a story idea that I just need to tell, so I wrote Don't Wake the Dead. We don't have any pictures for Ghost Guardian or The Wailing Fae, but I will double back when it's time to talk about Don't Wake the Dead. So we'll talk about Valena's story first. So The Wailing Fae was her first holiday story that Valena DeAngelis did for us, and it kind of draws some mythology from like the greater world of Tellest and flips it on its head, because we had already seen in Awake we had our Dreamwalker. We had a character who entered people's dreams allegedly in this in some fun ways, and she helped to kind of flesh out the world in some ways. It's one of those things that kind of, there was so much going on that Halloween between our three stories that I really didn't get to absorb it until after the holiday was over. But it was something that it was very cool. She absolutely knew the assignment. She knew what we needed her to do, and she developed a story that had an eerie vibe, and it carried a lot of lasting effect even after you turn the final page. Whereas for Aaron, his story was a sequel to the ghost story that he told earlier. So we had that character, Yasuoka, who was the ghost hunter that we saw in the 2018 story. He ended up fleshing out her story in a very interesting way, where the ghosts were really like the main antagonist of that first story, and he flips it the other way and makes it so that humanity is kind of the trouble in Ghost Guardian. She almost has to kind of protect, not necessarily the ghosts themselves, but like the nature of them. Are you saying hello? Are you saying hello to the people?
Daddy, talk about me. Talk about how cool I am.
You are the coolest. You are absolutely the coolest bitey dog in the room right now. What's the issue? Would you like to come up? Would you like to come up? There you go. There you go. We're gonna take a Luna break for a second.
You should big screen her.
I
take a break.
Do you want to big screen her?
I can't.
All right, we are going to big screen her. We're gonna go to our chat break for a second, and Luna is very happy right now. I think.
She is.
So hello, yes, hello.
That's
we
what
had.
you wanted.
Luna, we had 1.5 stories left to talk about. That's all. That's all we had. This one and her 2 sisters were missing us very much for the week that we were gone. Rihanna has, we'll talk about this a little bit more on the end too. Rihanna has put together a cute little compilation video of their reactions when we came home on TikTok. On the Tales of Tellest TikTok.
Yeah, it's not the best video quality because honestly, like, filming was secondary to just
experiencing it.
Like, I just wanted to love on my babies after a week away.
Well, I am getting...
especially a pandemic puppy, so she's not used to
being
us
alone.
Being gone,
yeah. Well, I'm going to put Luna on the ground because I am.
She don't want.
I don't want the bath.
Come here, baby.
Help! Help!
I got her. Wait. Oh God. There we go. Was that fun? Was that a fun?
That's our... You know what? We're going to take an actual intermission for a second. 1 second. We're back because this must be seen.
Oh, God.
How's your nose?
It's okay. Okay.
Good times. You all right? Yeah, I'm fine. Do you need a sip of water?
Yes.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Luna, we're almost done. We've got 1.5 stories to talk about. Do you want to lick some bottle? There you go. There you go.
Condensation is the best.
It's like we're paying attention to you all of a sudden.
God, that was funny.
It was very funny. All right, so real quick. So Ghost Guardian, it ended up looking at things from a different lens. It ended up fleshing out a lot of what was going on in that neck of the woods, which is Numasa. Those were the first 2 stories that we had written that Aaron and Valena did, and then we'll talk about mine a little bit, just because it is something that I had a lot of fun writing. Let me show you. Well, I'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll bring up the art. Let me take a sip of water first, because that was the whole thing I was leading to.
It's always chaotic after Luna smothers.
It's just chaotic in this house. So, Don't Wake the Dead was the first time that I wanted to kind of develop the equivalent of like a slasher fic for the Tellest universe. We really haven't had any big creepy monster type. I mean, we had the silent sprites and things like that, but we didn't have a slasher that really existed in the Tellest universe, and we certainly didn't have the last girl trope. The person that survives the big scary monster. And Don't Wake the Dead gave me the opportunity to explore that in a way that we really hadn't had that opportunity before. What we ended up leaning into was, when we were developing Heart of the Forest, and certainly Bixby, we knew that we were dealing with the Calistrazi. So the Calistrazi were the first men who ended up appearing in the Tellest lore once the convergence happened. So once Earth and Tellest reconvened into one world again, they were the first people who ended up with the strain. Very powerful beings, and we ended up creating Thune Soren, who is basically an undead Mr. Fantastic. So let's see if we can bring up a picture of him real quick. I don't know how easy it'll be to bring up his picture. Let's see. I can't remember if we have it as... Yep, there we go. So, now... So, Thune Soren, this drawing was done by Warren Suen Lee as well. Is this your first time seeing it since the story came out?
I think I only saw the sketch art. Like, I was advising on, like, the sketches. Mm-hmm. I didn't see the final product.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good, but I don't like it because it's spider-esque.
Yeah, he's a little bit grotesque to look at. Yeah.
So it's good. It's just not my
He's very unseemly and everything.
I need to eye bleach after this.
Yes, yeah, you're going to look at pictures of cats and puppies and GIFs and stuff like that. Yeah. It is a very fun story to tell because we really hadn't done a story where everybody dies. It is not saying that's what happens, but
spoiler alert.
It is very much like watching a Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy Krueger, Scream kind of experience. We wanted it to be that everybody was in danger, and I am very saccharine by nature. Like, I like to make happy things and stuff like that.
You are a Pookie.
And even in most of the stories that we tell, unless they're like straight up trash people who deserve to be punished, it's very hard for me to punish a good person. And I had to kind of like paint the picture of these people being sort of like ambiguously bad, to be able to put the hurt on them. And Thune Soren just ended up being the kind of character that can come back, and we've already envisioned ways that he could. He's a Calistrazi who's been dead for hundreds and hundreds of years. Speaking of things that come back, how you doing there, puppy? Are you okay? We've got one more story to talk about. Just one,
and then we'll be down
just
to snuggle,
one.
okay?
Just one more story. Can you please? Can you speak? Can you speak? Can you speak? Yes, good job. Is it almost time? Is it almost time? It's almost time. Can I have a kiss? What about high five? No, can I have a high five? That's a bite. High five? High five?
Come
on. Zelda wants high fives.
High five, Zelda.
Good girl, Zelda. Alright, we're going to talk about one more story, okay?
Yeah, and then we'll be done.
And this story we're not even going to go into a huge amount of detail about because it hasn't yet been completely written yet. So this year's Halloween story, in theory, should be done by tomorrow, but it won't be because we went on vacation and we didn't have enough time to finish writing it. So
time or energy, because that's the difference.
Both.
We old.
So this year's story, it's fun in a way that I get to tie it into another property that's going to release this week. So I had been working on fantasy writing prompts for a very long time. The website's been up for 3 years at this point or something like that. But the book, the 100 fantasy writing prompts book, actually comes out. Technically, you could buy the paperback right now if you wanted to. But the ebook is coming out on Friday. One of the prompts in that book is about what could happen when a mysterious shadow falls upon the land. And this year's Halloween story, Days of Shadow, is my way of interpreting what that prompt could mean. So I don't want to talk too much about it. I feel like after a year, I'm allowed to spoil my own stories, but before a book has even come out, I really can't talk too much about it. But I'm very happy with what I've written so far. It's definitely told in kind of the George R.R. Martin kind of way of doing things, where every section is presented with a point of view character. It's not like all omnipotent or anything like that. So it's fun to. I'm always looking at ways to experiment with my stories, and this one is a fun way to look at a big bad that is not necessarily the kind of big bad that you normally see. So I'm very excited for people to be able to experience that. I'm thinking we're probably looking at like halfway through November before that's right. I'd like to have it done before our convention, because after the convention I'm sure I'm going to be burned out and everything like that.
And the prep for the convention is also going to be a big...
Right.
We got stuff to do. Let's not do anything ever again.
So to that point, that is where we'll leave you as far as the Tellest Hello there, puppy. The spooky stories go and everything like that. I will again say that you are just desperate to get everybody's attention right now. I will say that is a nice tie-in to the Fantasy Writing Prompts book. Again, that'll be out on Friday. You can look at some of the previews on the Amazon page right now. You can get the paperback already, as I said, and you can just look at the sample there. The actual ebook will be out on Friday. That's already pre-planned, and then we will actually be at PhilCon in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, later this month or next month rather. Sorry, I'm just getting gnawed alive by my dog. I could be a creature of the night as well.
I'm a vampiric nerd.
So yeah, that'll be the real reason that we were trying to get that done this month was because we wanted to have them available to sell at this writing specific convention. We thought that there would be a fun little thing to do there. Kev says, DM me and I'll give you prompt 37 for 37 cents, which might be a pretty good deal.
Do you want me to take them down? I'll see.
Well, it shouldn't matter because we're about to cut to the closing page anyway. So let's do that. We'll cut to that, and then I'll head I'll head down with you for a little bit, and then Kev, would you be interested in watching me play a little bit of Spider-Man 2, or are you phantom watching us right now?
Just chewing on you.
Do you need to go outside?
I think that's what it is.
I think that's what it is.
That's why I was offering.
Well, yeah. If you want, he says he'll watch when possible. So I'll let you take them down.
Bye, everybody.
I'll spend a little bit. I'll spend like 5 minutes down there to replenish and everything like that. I've got to set everything back up here. So it'll be a brief intermission, but so Kev, you've got a little bit of time anyway. But I am going to
Halloween, people.
Happy Halloween. So I'm going to cut over to our closing the show screen. So folks, on the screen right now, you should be able to see all the places that you can see Tellest content. Starting with our website, you can go to Tellest.com to see anything and everything that we do. If you want to see some of our premium content, which is art that we show off on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and our battle maps that we show off here in high definition and everything like that, you can go to patreon.com/Tellest. If you want to see our content, like our video content after we are done posting it to Twitch, and Twitch kicks us off the platform and everything like that, you can find those old videos on youtube.com/@worldofTellest. Of course, if you want to see that stuff live, you have to be here at twitch.tv/thattellestguy. If you want to see some of the cool physical products that we sell, you can only get those at tellest.etsy.com. Those include our battle maps printed on jumbo mouse pads, Rihanna's wands, the posters that we sell, stickers, bookmarks, lots of cool stuff there. For the content that Rihanna releases on TikTok, I really need to update this screen so that those TikTok pages are here. You can go to Tales of Tellest. That's TAILS of Tellest. Those feature the dogs and some old videos of Peanut. And you can see her wands at Weird Witch Wands on TikTok, and Weird is spelled WYRD. That is going to be it for now. I am going to take a few minute break and replenish. As you can tell, my voice is already beginning to go, but I will be back, crappy voice and all, in a few minutes to continue playing Spider-Man 2. I got to play it for about an hour before vacation, and I've been itching to get back. So, thank you very much, Kev. I don't even look at the Word document anymore when I read off the screen now. I just kind of wing it. So, I feel like that's the way that we do these train wrecks. So, thank you all for watching. I hope that you get to stick around and watch the Spider-Man stuff for a little bit while I play that, and I will see you in a few minutes to go over that. So, I am going to close the show until next time, which, again, should be a couple minutes from now.